I'm going to start us off by saying,
Okay.
2024 will be the year of the first-time homeowner.
Yes.
Yes.
Tell me more.
Okay, so first-time homeownership, obviously, there's a lot of new households being created.
Yeah.
Obviously, first-time homeownership makes a large, I wouldn't say majority, but it's a good sum of people that are buying homes. Right now, that's primarily who I help, obviously, because I'm younger and that's my sphere.
Right.
But the reason that I say that is because right now, there are a lot of people that put homeownership kind of on the side for a year.
Sure.
Last year around this time, and they came back and they're like, I'm going to wait for rates to come down. Guess what? Rates are actually a little bit higher than they were last year. So I think a lot of people are coming back and just saying, hey, you know what? I'm just going to get into homeownership. And we've had a very busy last few weeks because of that. But what's also happening is that the affordability gap is widening, right? The more that house prices go up, interest rates are going up. And so there have been more and more incentives to help people get into homes right now because of that issue. And so I really believe that even more than ever, especially as rates come down and more of these programs come out, more first-time home buyers are going to be able to purchase than I would say maybe the last 6 to 12 months.
Yeah. It's that market adjusting to what needs to happen to keep people moving forward.
Right. I mean, especially in Colorado too, you know.
Yes, right. So, well, when before we had cash buyer programs, right? And that we needed to help people get in because people were getting beat out by all these cash offers.
Yep.
Now those have kind of gone away.
Yep.
And now we're coming up with new ways to help. And so I think that's one thing that people don't always realize. That's actually a good point we didn't think about before. But as a shifts, people think, well, I just have to wait. I have to wait for the crash, or I have to wait for the rates to come down, or all this stuff. Yeah. But there's these new things that do start to bubble up that are getting created because everybody still wants this to happen for people. Everybody's, we still want people to own homes. And I think all of those new products and things that come out that you're just talking about to get overshadowed by all the bad news, right?
Yeah.
And that the only way I'm going to be able to get in is when rates and prices drop.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's good. It's good awareness for people.
Dude, and it is an amazing time for a buyer out there. I was like, a couple weekends ago, I said, I'm going to go into my neighborhood. I'm going to go into home open houses. I'm going to bring Owen with me so I can hang out with him. And I just want to go see what it's like to be a buyer. And I'm like, these properties are sitting on the market for how long?
Yes.
I mean, it is an amazing time right now because there's amazing properties that are priced at or below market, and they're just sitting.
60, 90 days.
They're just sitting there, and they are perfect houses, especially for first-time home buyers. So, when it goes into first-time home ownership, there's a lot of people that need a little bit of assistance.
Absolutely.
A lot of bit of assistance sometimes, right? And that's not just, monetary, but that's guidance. Right. I think, I needed it. I had no idea what the heck I was doing my first
Nobody
purchase,
does,
right?
yeah,
You come in, you're like, just help, please, advise me.
Right.
And so like you talked about, we're going away from cash.
Yes.
Cash is not king right now. We don't need it. But we are going towards down payment assistance programs. There are so many ways that you can get into a house. So,
and I think there's a lot of misconceptions around what that is. Do I have to pay back the loan? Is it an additional loan? What is it? And what's the catch, right?
Yeah,
in the end, like really, you're just going to give me some down payment assistance. What does that really look like? Exactly. And just kind of clarifying a lot of that. Because for me right now, and I told Ryan this earlier, like I want to talk about first time home buyers because they're just on my heart a lot right now. They're just, I have so many people that want to get in right now, and it's really, really hard. And so I think giving them some hope right now is the big thing, and knowing that just what we're seeing today isn't what we're always going to see. Right. And even in today, here's some options, and we might still have to wait, right? We might still have to wait a little bit.
Sure.
But we're ready to strike because we have a plan in place. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot to address when it comes to first-time home ownership, right? I think before you even look into buying, you have to make sure that more than ever, you're not completely liquidating all of your money, right? Because when we start talking about a strategy, we have to make sure you got a reserve fund. I can't set you up and say, okay, you bought a house, you got $0 left.
Right.
Now,
it's not good for anybody.
Now you're on the edge, right? Especially with how, on the higher end that rates are. First-time home buyer programs, everybody says, what's your first-time home buyer program? And it's funny that there's really not any first-time home buyer programs. They're all very much income limited. And so as long as you are under some certain income limits, let's just go ahead and use CHFA.
Yeah.
Right? CHFA is like the Colorado down payment assistance program. I do it all the time. I absolutely love it. It is, for the most part, what we do is as long as you are under $148,000 of qualifying income.
Okay.
So the reason I say qualifying is maybe you make $145,000 of salary and then you get a bunch in bonus. Well, I only have to use the salary. So as long as you qualify on your salary, we can get a down payment assistance. Great. What does down payment assistance look like?
Great distinguishment there. Yeah.
Down payment assistance is, really simply put, CHFA will give you up to 4% of the loan amount towards your down payment and closing costs. So let's say you're putting 3% down as a first-time home buyer on a conventional loan. That means you're not only going to get your down payment paid for, you're going to get some of your closing costs paid for. And so now at this point, you've got enough money to go buy a house. What that lends itself to is somewhere around 8 to 10 grand.
Okay.
You can go buy a house for 8 to 10 grand.
Yeah.
So what is that money though? That 4% of the loan amount. Well, luckily it's called a silent second. The reason they call it silent is because there's no payments on it. There's no interest. You will end up paying that money back. And how do you do that? You either pay it back via a refinance, and you'll just pay them back with the equity you have in the house, or you pay it back when you sell the property once again.
Is there any interest on that at all?
Nope. There is zero interest. So you're only going to pay back the amount of money that they were giving you for the down payment assistance. And so it's just an amazing way for first-time home buyers to get into a house. Maybe you have saved enough up for 3% down, but maybe we want to keep some money on hand. Yeah, right. We're going into recessions, right?
Or just to have a little bit of cushion.
Exactly. Right. So maybe we utilize CHFA to help with that. And so
let me ask you this question. Yeah. So if I'm going to go to use CHFA, you said about 8 to 10,000. What in addition to that would I have to bring to the table typically?
Nothing.
Nothing at all.
Nothing.
So I don't have anything else in addition. Your only expenses then are inspection and appraisal.
Appraisal is covered in that.
Can be covered in that too.
It is covered, yeah.
Okay, great. So that's a very, very straightforward, and again, we just got to make the numbers work, right? Yeah. You got to make sure your income, got to make sure you get the right price, things like that. Can you use seller concessions?
That was going to be my next point. Yeah. I've had clients purchase a house for $1,000 usually utilizing CHFA. Because as you know, it's a very, as much as the inventory is limited, we're still very, I would say, having leverage with buyers. They call it a seller's market, but right now you have leverage, right? And so
that's right.
We've been able to go in and say, hey, look, we want to get concessions on this, and we're going to utilize CHFA. So let's say your cash to close is $10,000. We're going to make an offer with a $9,000 concession because CHFA requires that you bring at least $1,000. You can't buy a house for free, but pretty darn close.
Right.
So we'll go offer $9,000 concessions. Most often than not, the sellers say, yep, we'll accept that. And now you are literally purchasing a house for $1,000 all in, and let's say your inspection costs are another $1,000. I know that's probably pretty high, but
it could be up to that.
Yeah, it could be up to that. That's right. So $2,000, you just bought yourself a new house.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Pretty cool.
Do you see certain price ranges where that works better than others?
Most clients that need down payment assistance are probably in the price ranges of like $250 to we'll call it $650 on the high end.
Okay.
For the most part, in order to qualify for a loan above that, you need to have a higher income than what that CHFA income limit is.
Gotcha.
So you're not going to see much above that. But I mean, the meat and potatoes is a pretty substantial amount of what this Denver market is.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. Right. I mean, the average price right now is about $580.
Perfect.
That's across townhomes and single family, all that. That's put all together, right? But that's kind of right in the middle of what you just said. A little bit higher, but right in the middle.
Yeah.
I mean, it is very hard to find really anything under 400 right now.
Right. Yeah. If you're getting something under that, you're buying a condo.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
For sure.
Right. How does that play into? Is there any kind of condition that the house has to be in, or is there any requirements from that perspective?
No, I mean, at the end of the day, when you're doing CHFA or anything like that, it all is just coming down to the loan program. And for the most part, FHA gets a bad rap. They say that FHA, you have to have a lot more, the house has to be in better shape, or a VA, when that's not really the case. And so you just have to make sure it's just livable.
Okay.
Right? The livability of the house. You can't have any open walls.
Right. Can't look like a war zone.
Yeah, it can't look like a war zone. The health and safety of the house is sound.
Gotcha.
So as long as you have a livable house, it doesn't matter if you have 40-year-old appliances or anything like that. It will usually pass appraisal.
Okay.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah.
Another good point I just thought about as you said that. What about the type of loan programs you can use with CHFA?
Yeah, that's a good question. So you can do conventional.
Okay.
You can do FHA.
Okay.
And you can do VA if you want to.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, what about, is there anything else that you just have to think about, or any kind of gotchas or things that come out of that?
Not really. CHFA's great. You know, CHFA
Yeah.
doesn't really have any what we call overlays saying, hey, you have to up and above, because qualifying for a conventional loan, you have to make sure that you have this. There's just not much. It's just, for the most part, it's, do you make under the income limit?
Yeah.
And do you qualify for whatever loan program you're using? Great. Here's your down payment assistance.
And then we're good.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Incredible program.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And when would that not be a good idea for a first-time home buyer to use?
Well, I mean, for the most part, it's all tied to your cash, right? If you have enough money, there's not, if you have enough money for the down payment and the reserves, you're not going to see a benefit from doing CHFA. We still can. I mean, if you want to.
If you want to.
Yeah, if you want to, sure, great. But there's not a lot of benefit if you have enough for a down payment. So it's more just about, what do you have for down payment? What are we looking at from a post-closing, emergency fund standpoint?
Gotcha.
And if we have enough for that, we probably go the opposite route, because the only thing you can't do with CHFA is buy down the rate. Which a lot of people are doing right now,
really
right? And so CHFA, what happens is they send me an email every morning. Here is the rate for down payment assistance, which is great.
Okay.
Doesn't change a lot, which is awesome. Where like other rates will change all day, every day, right? Here's the email for CHFA. So that's the only thing is like, if we want to go buy down the rate, do a 2-1 buy down, which is really like a hot button right now.
Yep.
You can't do that with CHFA. So that's the only thing you're kind of handcuffed by.
Yeah. Good nuance there.
Yeah.
Now let's say I'm buying a $500,000 house. What does that, my payment does, what changes if I'm using CHFA and I'm not? Let's say I have the cash.
Yeah.
Or I don't have the cash, and then don't have the cash.
Yeah.
What does that look like? Is there any change in payment or any other things that happen there?
Not really. The CHFA's got very competitive rates.
Okay.
So they're not overcharging you for getting that down payment assistance at the end of the day. So that's the biggest piece is the creativity that we can use without doing CHFA is a little bit higher.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's not going to say, oh, you're going to do CHFA and now your rate's 0.5% higher. It's really comparable to if we didn't. The only thing is that you don't have to pay back that second mortgage.
Right. Until you sell or until you refinance.
Right, exactly.
Gotcha.
And so the only thing that CHFA does is you have to make sure that you've made enough equity back over a span of time to pay that back when you refinance. Refinancing is something we talk about a lot. So, what it allows us to do when we don't do CHFA is maybe in 6 months it's time to refinance.
Sure.
And you don't do CHFA, we can jump on that. You've had enough equity.
Right.
Whereas if you do CHFA in 6 months, you're probably not going to have gained enough equity within those 3 months to pay back that second mortgage. So maybe we wait a year or two. And so that's the only thing is, how quickly do you make that money back?
Sure.
But, CHFA is 4% of the loan amount. Let's say your house appreciates 4%. You've made that money back in a year.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
One other nuance there I want to ask, can you do any sort of appraisal gap or anything like that when you're using CHFA?
So it's funny. We actually have used CHFA to cover an appraisal gap sometimes.
Interesting. Okay.
Right? So maybe the client says, I want to do 3% down, and they only have enough for 3% down.
Gotcha.
And they want a $10,000 appraisal gap. Well, if they don't have that extra $10,000, then they can't cover an appraisal gap. Well, what if we make that offer with a $10,000 appraisal gap?
Yep.
And then we utilize CHFA if the appraisal comes in low, which is a strategy we can do.
That's great.
And so if the appraisal comes in low, then what we can do is we can utilize CHFA for what was originally, now was what's going to be used for the down payment money.
Okay.
And then we use that original money that you were going to utilize for the down payment and
to cover the appraisal gap. Gotcha.
So it's a creative financing
So
solution.
if the appraisal comes in low, CHFA's not going to go, sorry, we're not.
Yeah, right.
We're out now.
Right, exactly.
You just have to restructure it.
Right, exactly.
Gotcha.
They're not going to say, "Oh, we'll give you more money to cover the appraisal gap."
Right.
They will only lend on the lower of the appraisal or the sales price.
So you're probably thinking, Brian, why would you even ask that question? We're not doing appraisal gaps anymore, right?
They will come back, and I can almost guarantee it.
They will come back, and they are still around. There are still a few around.
For sure.
Yeah.
Competitive houses,
priced right, good condition, great location. They're gone. I had that happen with some first-time home buyers. Yeah, just recently last month.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what happened. We were up against 2 other offers, and I was like, of course we get that with the one house, that is against that. And so it's not about, like, we can't make any overarching statements anymore. Like we don't do this anymore, we don't do that. We have to have the whole toolkit in front of us, and 100%. We have to have all the strategies ready to go and deploy depending on the situation we get ourselves into. And when you do that and you have everything ready and set up, that's when you win, right?
That is when you win.
Those who prepare well and persist it always works out.
I kind of created a little slogan recently where it's,
I want to hear it.
You don't have to be successful to plan, but you have to plan to be successful.
You'll try that again.
Yes. Let me try that one more time.
I want to hear this.
There you go. You don't have to be successful to plan, but you have to plan to be successful.
Yes. 100%. Yeah. I think, and everybody thinks, and the other thing I think that's interesting about that, everyone thinks you have to have it all figured out. You don't have to have everything figured out. You just have to have enough figured out, right? So you don't have to say, like, I don't have to know every circumstance. And that's why you and I are here helping people. Mm-hmm. Like, I kind of I use this analogy when I'm talking with somebody who's going to buy a house. I'm like, this is your ship, but I'm your captain, and I'm here to help you. If it's smooth waters, great. I'm going to help you navigate the smooth waters, right? Yeah. If we get a hurricane or if we get rough waters, whatever it is, we've been here before. You and I have been here before. We've seen these circumstances. Yep. So we don't need to talk about every little thing. Oh. We're going to get the basics, the good foundation in place, and then we're going to move forward there. Yep. And when something comes up, then we'll address it.
We can cross that bridge if we need to.
But we know it's in the back of our mind, and that's why you use somebody who can really help you with that.
For sure.
And I think that's one thing that I appreciate about you do is it's not just, well, here's what we can do, and that's it, and there's no strategy behind it. It's let's have a really good game plan in place.
There's a will, there's a way.
Yes, exactly, right? And if we run up against something that we didn't expect or that we really couldn't have planned for, because that's going to happen, we have the resources to still help. We can go figure it out. We're not just like, well, whoops, I guess that didn't work.
Yeah, exactly. So we're here to help, and that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? I think overarching, at the end of the day, there are tons of programs. CHFA is just one of them.
What else is there
to make homeownership work? There's a lot of different. There's another down payment assistance program, Metro DPA, similar higher income limits.
A lot of people bring that up when I have that conversation. With them. So maybe a quick what does that look like?
Like that one is going to be a little bit higher rates, but you can make up up to 180K.
Okay.
They have different down
higher
payment
income limits.
Yeah, higher income limits. They have different down payment assistance percentages. So CHFA is just 4%. You get 4% of the loan amount. Metro DPA, you can do 1, 2, 3, 4, and different rates tied to that. So,
but the rate itself is higher.
Yes, the rates in general on Metro DPA are a little bit higher, but
about how much?
I don't know, 1/4, 0.5%, something like that. But they've got a different structure where for the first 3 years, it becomes forgivable. So if you keep that loan for 3 years, then the first half of that second, you don't actually even have to pay back. So there's a lot. There's a lot. And I think
that one's also payable at the end, like once you sell or once you refinance.
Exactly. Okay. Yep. Yeah. So there's just a lot of different programs out there. Yeah. And that, basically when I get your application, I kind of open up my Rolodex and I'm like, okay, this would work for these clients, right?
Right.
And so don't ever think that you have to do that research for you.
That's right.
We're here to strategize and make sure that we look at all your options.
100%. And I love that, especially with my engineering. As you can tell with my questions, right? My engineering nerd side is coming out as I'm trying to look at it from all the different perspectives because I know, how people think, and they want to see everything because we're so trained right now to be like, well, what's the catch though? Where am I going to get, like, where are you selling me on this? Things like that,
Yeah.
And I just like to debunk it with real numbers, real situations, and looking at that. And I think everything you just went through, it can sound too good to be true, but this is designed to do what it's to do, and it's legitimate.
Mm-hmm. It's designed to get you into a home, and that's all you want to do at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So awesome.
All right.
Love it, Ryan.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys tuning in.
Yes.
Definitely don't forget to hit the subscribe button.
Yes, subscribe. Yeah. We're doing these every month now, so we're trying to get them out there. Yeah. You're going to see us out there more and more. And if there's something else you really, really want to learn about, know about, real estate, non-real estate, if you want to know about anything in our personal lives, I don't know, just ask us down below. We want to hear from you because we want this to be valuable, but also fun.
Cheers.
Yeah. All right.
Boom.
Have a good one.
See you guys.
Bye. Are we on?
Yeah.
You know what's funny is I title it Brian and Ryan, but it's Brian and Ryan.
Oh.
So I need to change that in our podcast.
Brian and Brian?
Yes.
Brian and Brian, Ryan and Ryan.
Right.